From Plato's student to Alexander's teacher, the story of Aristotle. The story of Aristotle begins in a small town in northern Greece called Stagira. Long before he became one of the most influential thinkers in history, he was the son of a court physician connected to the Macedonian royal circle. From an early age, Aristotle grew up around medicine, close observation, and the study of living things. While other children played, he was drawn to questions about nature. Why do animals move as they do? Why do plants grow toward the light? Questions like these would shape the course of his life. At the age of 17, Aristotle traveled to Athens, the intellectual center of the Greek world. There, he entered the academy founded by Plato, already famous as the student of Socrates and one of Greece's greatest philosophers. For roughly 20 years, Aristotle studied in that remarkable environment where students debated justice, knowledge, politics, and the nature of existence itself. Plato taught that the visible world is not the deepest level of reality. According to his philosophy, beyond the changing things we see lies a higher order of perfect forms, beauty itself, justice itself, goodness itself. The things around us are only imperfect reflections of those timeless realities. Aristotle admired Plato deeply, but over time he began to part company with his teacher. The more he studied plants, animals, and human behavior, the more he came to believe that understanding begins not in a separate realm beyond experience, but in the things before us. He did not reject the search for lasting truth. He simply looked for order, form, and explanation within the natural world itself. A saying later associated with Aristotle captures this break in spirit. Plato is dear to me, but dearer still is the truth. Whether or not he spoke those exact words, they express something essential about him. He was not turning against his teacher out of disrespect. He was expressing a principle at the heart of all serious inquiry. Loyalty to truth must come before loyalty to authority. After Plato's death, Aristotle eventually left Athens. For a time he traveled, conducted research, and continued developing his ideas. Then came an extraordinary turn in his life. Philip II of Macedon invited him to educate his young son, the Prince Alexander. The assignment would become one of the most famous teacher-student pairings in history. Aristotle instructed the young prince in ethics, politics, literature, and science. He sought to teach that power should be governed by judgment and self-restraint. But history does not always follow the hopes of philosophers. Alexander would grow into one of the most formidable conquerors the world had ever seen, building an empire that stretched from Greece to Egypt and far into Asia. Later tradition holds that Alexander did not entirely forget his teacher. Ancient reports suggest that as he campaigned through distant lands, unusual plants, animals, and specimens were sometimes sent back for Aristotle's study. Whether embellished or not, the story fits the larger pattern of Aristotle's life, a mind eager to gather facts from every corner of the known world. These investigations contributed to one of his most remarkable achievements. Aristotle produced one of the earliest systematic studies of animal life in human history. He observed and described hundreds of species, noting their anatomy, habits, and reproduction. His work, History of Animals, would remain enormously influential for centuries and helped establish the study of living nature as a disciplined field of inquiry. Eventually, Aristotle returned to Athens and founded his own school, the Lyceum. It differed in important ways from Plato's academy. At the Lyceum, discussion ranged across nearly every subject: logic, ethics, politics, poetry, rhetoric, physics, biology, and metaphysics. Aristotle and his students are said to have walked as they talked, which is why they later became known as the Peripatetics, the walking philosophers. What made Aristotle distinctive was not only the range of his interests, but the method he brought to them. He wanted to classify, compare, define, and explain. He studied how arguments work, helping lay the foundations of formal logic. He examined constitutions, collected information about animals, and asked, what makes a human life good? His curiosity was vast, but it was never aimless. He sought order in things. That same spirit shaped his ethics. Aristotle believed philosophy should illuminate how human beings ought to live. One of his best-known ideas is the golden mean. Virtue often lies between extremes. Courage stands between cowardice and recklessness. Generosity stands between stinginess and wastefulness. A good life is not a life of excess, but one of balance, judgment, and practiced character. For many years, Aristotle taught, wrote, and investigated in Athens. But beyond the schools and lecture walks, the political world was changing fast. In 323 BCE, Alexander the Great died. His death unleashed tension across the Greek world, and in Athens, hostility toward Macedonian influence intensified. Because of his long association with the Macedonian court, Aristotle suddenly found himself vulnerable. He was accused of impiety, the same charge that had once been used against Socrates. Aristotle knew too well what such a charge could lead to. Rather than remain and risk a trial, he chose to leave Athens. Later writers attribute to him a memorable remark. He would not allow the Athenians to sin twice against philosophy. The first offense, of course, had been the execution of Socrates. Whether the line is exact or not, it captures the decision clearly. Aristotle would not stay to become a second martyr. He fled to Chalcis on the island of Euboea, where he spent the final year of his life. There, removed from the political turmoil of Athens, he died in 322 BCE. Yet even after his death, stories continued to gather around his name. One later legend places Aristotle beside the swift and puzzling currents of the Euripus Strait, where the tides seemed to reverse direction in baffling ways. According to the tale, he became obsessed with discovering the cause. Day after day, he studied the waters, trying to uncover their hidden order. In the end, the legend says, he was driven to despair by a mystery he could not solve. Historians doubt the story, but its symbolism is revealing. It presents Aristotle as generations remembered him. A man of relentless curiosity, unwilling to stop at appearances, driven to ask why things happen as they do. For him, nature was not a veil hiding truth somewhere else. It was the place where truth had to be sought. That is one reason his influence became so enduring. For nearly 2,000 years, philosophers, theologians, physicians, and natural scientists worked with concepts he helped define. His writings shaped medieval Christian thought, Islamic philosophy, and large parts of the intellectual tradition from which modern science eventually emerged. Aristotle did not live like Diogenes, nor did he write dramatic dialogues like Plato. What he offered was something different, a disciplined way of investigating the world through observation, classification, analysis, and reason. He began as a physician's son, asking why living things behave as they do. He ended by giving later civilizations a model for asking that same kind of question about almost everything. And that is why, more than 2,000 years later, Aristotle still matters. Not simply because he gave answers, but because he helped teach humanity how to pursue understanding itself.